Juice on the beat.
Out of Zion, the perfection of beauty, God shines forth. Out of Zion, the perfection of beauty, God shines forth. Out of Zion, the perfection of beauty, God shines forth. Out of Zion, the perfection. The mighty one, God the Lord, He has spoken, He has called the earth. From the rising of the sun to its going down, from the rising of the sun to its going down. Well, good evening, ladies. Thank you so much for joining us this evening to talk about this topic and to hear our guest speaker Leah's testimony. It's much appreciated. This evening, we're going to be talking about, well, the topic is called She's Just Too Sexy. Or is she? Well, we'll get into it. So it's really about, having an intimate conversation on modesty. Welcome to Women's Talk, first of all. My name's Elizabeth Ogunabole. I'm joined with Joke Ayola and also our wonderful guest speaker, Leah. And today's talk is hosted by Women's Talk Book Club. Last year, I think it was, Jox, we started Christian Book Club. And it's, a group of Christian women of varying ages who have come together to read, learn and discuss topics related to womanhood and the kingdom of God. And today's session is inspired by the book that we've been going through, which is called Disciplines of a Godly Woman by the wonderful Barbara Hughes. And this book is a great read. It's got much wisdom. It touches on many of the challenges and experiences that we encounter as a godly woman. One of the chapters in the book is on modesty, and it's actually titled Discipline of Propriety, which means having good, proper behavior, basically, conducting yourself in a way that's morally acceptable. And in one of our book club meetups, we had a great discussion on this particular chapter. And one thing led to another, and it led us to making today happen with our wonderful guest, Leah. So we hope that you're inspired, you're edified by today's session, and yeah, let's get into it. So in terms of how today's going to go and the layout, we will open up with prayer. We will introduce Leah. She would then give her testimony, and she'll talk a little bit about her store. And then we will go over some questions and answers and any questions or comments that you guys want to make, and then we'll close with prayer. So that's how it's going to go for now. So could I get Chi to please open us up in prayer real quick?
So, Lord, we thank you for this time. We thank you for this event and everything that is going to take place and everything that is going to be talked about. I pray that it will be edifying and that it will be enjoyable for everybody. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much, Chi. Cool. All right. So over to you, Jox.
Hi, good evening, everyone. So, just want to quickly introduce our guest, Leah, the amazing Leah. She's CEO of Modesty Panels UK, which she'll be telling us more about shortly. She's 32 years old, is a former glamour model and video vixen, and she was saved since 2008. She's an entrepreneur. And as I said before, she's the founder of Modesty Panels UK, which can be found on eBay. And she also has an Instagram page. And she's passionate about Christ and lover of all things cinnamon. So basically, throughout the session today, there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions. But we do have a set of questions that we have for Leah that we prepared beforehand. But if you do have questions, what I would like you to do is just post them in the comment section below so that we can come back to them or give you an opportunity to speak. But if everyone can just be conscious of time, because we're going to try and get through as much as we can today. So if you do ask a question and then the conversation gets going, we might have to cut you if it goes on for a bit too long. But other than that, yeah, Leah, I'm going to hand over to you.
Oh, thank you. Hello, everybody. My name's Leah. Thank you, ladies, for introducing me and for having me on your platform. I really appreciate it. I'm very blessed to be invited and to share my modesty journey with everybody. So you heard a little bit about my background there, that I was a former glamour model and music video vixen. But I just wanted to go back a little bit and tell you kind of how I got to where I am now in terms of modesty and speaking about modesty and being passionate about modesty, because I wasn't always like that. I suppose to start from the beginning, I was somebody who, when I was younger, I did feel that I wasn't very lovable or really worthy of love. And even though my parents, you know, gave me love as best as they could, when they got divorced when I was younger, I think something just went inside of me that just didn't feel very good about myself, and it was like a real deep emptiness. And I think now looking back, that emptiness is something that we all have, and we know that only God can fill it, but I really felt that. And so as I got into my teenage years, I started to look for love in all the wrong places, which some of you have probably heard that phrase before. And usually when you're looking for love in the wrong places, it's like with men or attention from just the wrong crowds. And could you guys let me know in your comments if you can hear me okay as well, just to okay, cool, that's good, brilliant. So when I started to try and get attention from men, I noticed very quickly that clothing, sexy clothing, would get the men's attention very quickly. And because I needed to fill that gap that was inside of me, which was really like an emptiness, I just knew if I dress sexy, then I can get men's heads to turn quite quickly. Then you can get a boyfriend, then you can have, I suppose, sex, which is then what you think is going to fill the empty void inside. But it doesn't actually make the void bigger, which is strange, because you'd think, okay, you finally got this thing that you want, it's filled you up, but it doesn't. It just keeps you more empty. So then you need more. And if you really feel like an ache inside where you really need to be loved, you're just going to keep going after love wherever you can find it. And usually when you're quite broken, like I was, emotionally broken, you then attract broken people, and it just gets quite twisted quite easily, and the relationships don't last. So I then started to get more sexy to get even more attention because I needed more. And I suppose then what happened with the glamour modeling was that where I was already dressing quite provocatively because I needed a lot of attention, and when I say provocatively, I mean, you know, those girls that walk down the street and you can see the bum cheeks hanging out the skirt, they've got the little bra top on, they've got their makeup and everything done, and you just know that they want attention. That was me. So then I started to take some photos and I put them on like a social media space at the time, and the photos were like topless because I thought, well, I'm really going to get some attention now if I'm topless. And I did get attention, and then I got an agent, and then I got some photo shoots and then some music videos. And the more attention I got, it also kind of puts you in the realm where you get the kind of porn directors looking at you thinking, wow, this girl is just showing everything. What will she do next? And they just want you because you're going to make them a lot of money. And so I went for a talk with some guy who wanted me to get into that industry. But that was the first time that I didn't know God then, but I felt something in my spirit say, get out now. And I was in his house and he had like champagne and everything. And I just felt in my spirit, get out now. And I did. I left the house and I ran. And I kind of felt like if I hadn't have gone, I don't know where I'd be today. I think you go down that road looking for love and affection, and it just is basically a lie. Like there's none there. There's no love and affection in men or in glamour modeling or the porn industry and things like that. So I got out of that. I'm sort of summoning it all down, so making a summary for you, but there's a lot more into it. But I want to get to the point of how I turned into looking into modesty. So coming from that kind of background where everything was not modest, I was so proud, so vain, very nasty as well. Not to use harsh words, but I was really bitchy, and like you could see it in my eyes. It was just like snake, you know. But I've had a lot of healing and deliverance. So I'll just do the LOL there in the comments. Yeah, I had a lot of deliverance and healing. So, you know, you can see my eyes now, but before you would have seen like, I don't know what's staring back at you, but it was a lot. So I kind of then went into a depression, long story short, saw Jesus in a dream. He told me to follow him. So I left the modeling industry and all of that stuff and decided I'm going to go to university, and that's where I got saved. So obviously now I've got God in my life. So he started to talk to me about my wardrobe. And because I'm a baby Christian, the first thing he spoke about was belly tops, because that was the first thing for him. And I was like, I don't want to give up my belly tops, because that was a big deal for me. It was my identity was in looking sexy. Like if I didn't look sexy, I wasn't valuable. And that was that really. So I stopped wearing my belly tops and things like that, but I was not happy about it. I wasn't like, yay, praise God, I don't get to wear belly tops, I'm going to cover up now. It was hard. And when I saw people, non-Christians really, wearing sexy clothes, I was so jealous. And I was looking at them and I was seeing all the attention they were getting, and the heads of men were turning towards them and not towards me. And to be honest, I was fuming, but now I look back, it would have been probably the demons in me that were fuming, because that's where we all got fed, you know. But that's how it is. And so that happened for a while, but I was still wearing really tight clothes and cleavage was out, but I wasn't in belly tops and see-through clothes, because before I was a Christian, I'd go out in like a see-through nightie with strippers heels on, a thong, big chains, eyelashes, loads of fake hair, fake nails, really long makeup. So to wear tight clothes sounds sexy, but at the time that was like, I felt like a granny wearing those. But then years passed, lots more healing came, and then I felt another kind of wave of God saying, you know, why are you wearing everything so tight? It's just too tight. Like I have a mentor who's like a mum to me, and she said that my jeans look like they were painted on. They're so tight. And again, it was like, well, I've got to show off my assets, because if I'm not a sexy Christian, then I'm not, you know, everything was still about being sexy. Just because I got saved, it didn't stop. I was covered up a bit more, but I still had to be sexy. Like, you know, I was exercising all the time to get that Coca-Cola bottle shape and, you know, get my Kim Kardashian on. So I'm not going to do all of that working out to not show it off, because I still needed men's attention, because that's where my value came from. And that's why you can still get, you know, women in the church today that need the attention of married men, the pastor, whoever, because they haven't been set free yet. That's why. And anyways, so that was that. So I said, okay, God, I will stop wearing things so tight. What am I supposed to wear? And he just said, like, maybe some more flowy dresses, but they were still quite short. But that was okay at the time. And I felt like, oh, I feel quite feminine now, because years had passed and I started to feel more like a woman as opposed to like a porn star. And as I started wearing flowy things, I was like, oh, this is sweet. And then a few more years passed. And then I had another wave where I felt God say, and this was the big one, this is the one I'm coming out of now, the third wave. I felt God say, I want you to give up clothes, exercise, makeup, and men. And I thought I was going to die, because I just said, I can't give up exercise, because what's going to happen to my body? Like, that's where my idolatry is like, as far as I was concerned, if you're not in shape, why are you alive? Like, if everything for me was to get a guy to look at you, and obviously because I was a Christian, I couldn't really have sex anymore with people who weren't my husband, but I still wanted them to look at me, that's for sure, because it's that kind of Jezebel spirit. I'm just going to be honest with you. And I needed that attention, and I also needed to keep the girls jealous, because that's how I was raised. I raised myself on, if the girls aren't hating on you, you're doing something wrong. And if the guys aren't looking, and you know, if you've got a friend's boyfriend who fancies you, that's good. Just crazy stuff. So I had all of that. So I had to give up the exercise, give up the new clothes, give up the makeup, and I felt lost. I felt completely lost, and I've just felt like I want to die. But I went through a wilderness period with that, because God dealt with my heart during that time, to the point where when I came out of it, which was about a year, he said, let me go to Primark with you, because that's where our budget was at the time. Some of you might have been invited to Zara, but Jesus invited me to Primark. And we went to Primark together, and we picked out some new clothes. And at first I was like, I can't wear this. I'm going to look so weird, and just, oh, what are you doing to me? And he bought me some really pretty clothes, but some of them were like jumpsuits and things like that. And he said, get a size up. I've said, oh my days, man. Do you want me to just, I cried in the changing room, but it was right for me. And now I can't go back. And then my skirt lengths are at the knee, or maxi, and my shorts are at the knee, so modest shorts. If you haven't seen what they look like, Google them. It's not for the faint-hearted. They're just long, especially when you're used to wearing little like cute booty shorts. But anyway, now I can't go back. Like, I actually feel weird if I'm showing my cleavage and in tiny shorts. I feel like, no, Lord, I can't. And I've got like 2 more minutes before my time goes up to share, but I just want to share the most important thing that happened to me in this time of the modest journey, and it was Jesus inviting me to become nothing. So he literally was on my bed, not in the flesh, but in the spirit. I sensed him come to me, and he said, I have an invitation for you. And he was excited. And I thought, what is it? Am I going to get married? That's what I'm always wondering. But it wasn't that. One day I'll be on here. Anyway, so it wasn't that. It was, I'm inviting you to become nothing. And he was like, ta-da, like, this is the biggest, highest calling you could ever have. And I felt like, to become nothing is a high calling. He was like, yeah, that's exactly what I done. He became nothing. And I felt he wanted me to give him my beauty, which is oh, thanks, I've got 5 minutes. Thank you, Elizabeth. He wanted me to give him what was precious to me and valuable to the world, is my beauty, my body, my clothes, and to turn away from wanting everyone to look at me, because I was vain and proud. I can't stress it enough. Like, you might not see it in me now because I've had a lot of work done in my heart, but I was the person that if it's your birthday party, I'm turning up better looking than you because I needed to be the center of attention. And when God convicted me of that, he reminded me of a scripture in Ezekiel. I wrote it down somewhere, I can't find it. Ezekiel 28 verse 17, where Satan, it says this, your heart was proud because of your beauty. And what happened to him? Do I need to explain? Because you already know what happened to him. That was me. Everything was about me. Like if I'm on the train and someone pretty is in the carriage and I step on, it's competition without a fact. Like we can't rest until I've flicked my hair, you flicked your hair. Well, then I'm going to stand up and show you my skinny waist, and you're going to stand up and show me your skinny waist, and I'm going to show you my bum, and you're going to show me that you've done 10 more squats than me. Oh my gosh, it was like that all the time. So to become nothing was to turn away from the world and say, you say to me that because I look like this and because I have it, I should flaunt it. And God was like, no. I want you to go low. I want you to become nothing, because in that way you are going to have the highest calling. And Jesus himself in Isaiah 53, which always fascinates me, it says he had no beauty or majesty that would attract us to him. He chose it that way. You don't just turn up in the flesh and deliberately choose to be ugly. He deliberately chose that because he knows what happens when people look good. We've seen it with David when he didn't get picked because he wasn't good looking. I saw him as like, oh, David, who wants David? And it's all about vanity and looks. But Jesus deliberately came and looked ugly. But in all of the Jesus movies and Jesus TV shows, which I watch, I love them, he always looks quite nice. He wouldn't have looked like that, friends. He wouldn't, because he deliberately wanted to go the lowest, which is actually the highest. So in this world, when we become less is better. But that's crazy for somebody who's vain and proud and needs to be seen. And modesty is really about what I've learned. It's really about being in the background. It's not about like, oh, whip yourself and cover yourself in a bin liner and oh, whoa, I'm nothing. No, it's not that. But it's about, if it's your friend's birthday party, why are you going out of your way to be the star of the show? You have to wonder why. And it's usually a spiritual thing and usually brokenness inside. It's not right. It's not right. And that's how it was. And I had to repent from it. But one last thing I want to say before I go and share this revelation with you. I heard it from a man at church. I don't even know his name. And I don't go to that church anymore. But he shared with me about, there's one verse in Exodus 38. And it talks about the women who were serving outside the tent of meeting when they were building the tent of meeting for Moses to go into. And they were serving outside. But guess what? They gave up their mirrors. It says they used their bronze mirrors for the creation of the wash basin that went inside the tent of meeting. So when the priests would wash their face, they look in the basin, which is made of mirrors, so they could see if they were clean. And it says that the women gave their bronze mirrors for the building of that. And he was saying, some of you women, and I knew he was talking to me, it felt like it was only me in the room, some of you women need to lay aside your mirrors and your image for the building of what God's doing. And I just thought, wow. And also he then shared that the wash basin is made of a mirror and it makes us clean. When we wash, we can see that we're clean. And it was the bronze had to be broken and molded to make the wash basin. And Jesus himself was broken and made to wash us. And he is our mirror. So when we look at Christ, we see ourselves. And I thought, wow, I want to give my mirror up for the building of the kingdom of God. And yeah, that's my story, if you followed that, because it was a bit fast.
Amazing, Leah. Thank you so much. So what we'll do is we'll move on to where you.
You're quite low.
Oh, sorry. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, you're just a little bit faint.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
It's all right. It's okay.
Sorry, it's, my laptop is a bit, you know. But okay, so what I was saying is, we are, if you want to just introduce us, tell us a bit about Modesty Panels and how you founded it, and yeah.
Oh yes, I forgot about this bit. So Modesty Panels UK is my business, and it basically was created because when I started my modest journey, there was a season when I had certain dresses that God let me wear previously, but then when we went through another phase of modesty, I put them on and I was like, my cleavage is showing. And God was like, yeah, I'm convicting you of that now. So I then started to put vests under everything, or t-shirts, and it was quite a stressful time actually, because it's so hot to put a vest under everything, and it was bulky, and it just added the pounds on, I'm not gonna lie. But I then decided I need some little thing just to cover that bit so I can wear my dress and feel cool in the summer, but not showing all the boobies. So I went on to eBay to buy some modesty panels, because they do exist. I didn't create them, but they're so small that when I bought them, it was only covering like here. So you have to have a very, very small, slim V-neck for it to be effective. So then when I looked for some that were bigger to give me like full coverage, they're all lace, like see-through lace. So I thought, I'm just going to look sexy if I'm wearing lace. People are going to think it's my underwear. So I decided to make my own. I do believe God gave me the idea for that. He did give me the idea for it. And I didn't know if they would sell. So I put some on eBay and they did start selling. I have actually sold more than I thought I would. And I've been making them myself. And that's kind of how it came about. And there's going to be, it's just the beginning, so it's a really baby business. I started it in lockdown in August last year, and we're still sort of developing it. So the panels that are on sale at the minute are my second panels. So the first ones were a slightly different shape, the second ones are a new improved shape, but I think in time we'll get different colors, different fabrics, and see where we go from there. And also dabble in the modest swimwear market, because that is something I find quite difficult. Modest swimwear that I actually like, a lot of the modest swimwear that's out there is actually for Muslims, and it
Sorry, I don't know what happened there. Do you have an unmute sign, Leah?
oh yeah, is that okay?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry about that. And yeah, so modest swimwear will be something I'll be dabbling in as well, because the Muslims do have the monopoly on that market at the moment, and it is nice, but it's not really what I like. So we're just working on that, just because it's, when you start dressing modestly, you do notice the lack sometimes in shops and things like that, or you find a really pretty dress, you love the print, but it's got a low cut, and you think, oh, so that's what these panels do. Same with swimwear. It'll be nice to just have something that's pretty and sweet, but also quite covering. Yeah, but I'm on Instagram. I think it shows it down there at Modesty Panels UK. So if you want to follow me and stay tuned for what's coming, what's going on, please do. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so
Leah, thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thanks so much for that. So we're going to move to the next segment, which is the Q&A. And as Jocka said earlier, we've written some questions. So we've got 8 pre-written questions that we're going to ask you, Leah. Ladies, again, any question that might come up or even comments, just kind of, hold on to it, write it down. And then after this segment, then, we'll just allow Leah to answer whatever anyone has on their mind. So Yep, go on, Jox.
So the first question for you, Leah, is there a fine line between sexy and modest dressing?
Oh, okay. So is there a fine line between dressing modestly and dressing sexy? I think they're just two completely different things. Modesty's here, dressing modestly is here, dressing sexy is there. So I don't think there's a fine line. I think it is literally like two opposite sides of a coin. For me, when I was dressing sexy, I knew I was dressing sexy because it's intentional. I know that there are some people who will maybe like say, "Oh, I didn't realize," and there's exceptions, but I think the type of people that I've got in my mind was who I was in the past. You know, when you're dressing sexy, it's like if you think about corporate office wear, there's some lovely office wear out there that you could wear, but then there's some lovely kind of office wear that's clearly like, oh, all my colleagues are going to just wish they could bend me over the table when I wear this and walk in. They're just going to think I'm sexy secretary. And then to be like, oh, I didn't know this was sexy. It's like, you did know. You were planning your entrance on a Monday. But I think they're different. Modest and sexy is so different. Like a lot of the clothes on the market are intentionally sexy because everybody knows sex sells, because most people have like this emptiness inside. So sex just fills that quite quickly, but actually makes it bigger as well. But that's a whole nother conversation. So I don't think there's a fine line between it. I think they're just very distinct.
Great.
Okay, so the next question, yeah, this is an interesting one because obviously the journey that you're on right now, and that has obviously started from eons ago. I'm sure you might have spoken to other ladies about this particular question, and that is, what do you say to people who say your position is extreme and modesty is boring?
Yeah, there are so many people on YouTube that are like, why I hate modesty. You think, all right, calm down. But I think it's because they don't really know the freedom of modesty. They don't really understand, like when you say modesty to someone who doesn't really know about it, they just say long skirt, polo neck, cardigan, boring. And it's not like that at all. There's so many beautiful clothes out there, and the way you can mix and match things. Like sometimes, you know, I'll get a mini dress that I would have normally worn without anything but a G-string underneath, and you can wear the mini dress with like really nice skinny jeans, and you think this is so cute, but you have to have a heart for it, otherwise you're not going to enjoy it. But also, if you think it's boring, you have to ask yourself, why do you think it's boring? And then usually it will be, well, because you're not going to get any attention, you're not going to get that, you know, that energy that people give you when they look at you. You disappear. You know, you will look nice and people will notice you, but you know who notices you the most is godly people. In the world, you will become invisible, and that's why people might think it's boring, because they're not getting that attention fix. But when you get a lot of healing and deliverance, and you know, you can actually sing a song in church that says I've been set free, and actually you have been, because I used to sing those songs and I'm singing it, chains swinging off of me, you know, it's different when you're actually free. You can see it. You want to be modest. You want to go low. You want to disappear into the background, because as you disappear, you go closer into the heart of God and into the secret place. So it's not boring. It's actually really freeing. And one thing that God did say to me, which always stood out, was when you're dressing, I want you to dress so you're ready in a position to minister. Because if I was wearing some of my skimpy clothes and then Holy Spirit says, go and pray for that person, I know that it was distracting if my boobs are hanging out and my waist is showing. And I'm like, oh, Lord, just touch this person. And meanwhile, they're like, oh, bumba numba, you know, just looking. Do you know what I mean? And it's kind of like, I saw this woman talk once on a YouTube video, and she said if you're in church and you're dressing appropriately, you're ready for Holy Spirit to move, because if you get blown back and you're climbing over chairs, praying and ministering for people when the Spirit moves, you don't want to be like, oh, I can't really move in this tight thing, so I'll just have to pray like this. You know, it's just like, no, you've got to be ready to minister. So it's not boring, it's freeing, because you're ready to go. It's your uniform. It's your public uniform as an ambassador of Christ.
Thank you for that. So moving on to the next question. How far should Christians go with modesty and modelling?
So I think when you're a model and you're a Christian, depending on the maturity of the believer as well, because if you've just been saved, right, and you've come from a background of like vanity and everything, and you get this modeling contract, you might just go, yeah, I'm going to wear the belly top in the model shoot, you know, for Levi's or whatever. But I think when you've really got a heart for modesty and you've been convicted on it, you can't. Like, there's certain things that they'll say, can you wear this? And you'll just say no. And I don't think you should be afraid of losing the work or the job, because God will reward you for that. Because I do think beauty is a gift. And if you've been gifted with beauty and asked to model, that's like, wow. But if you can do it in the godly way, it will be amazing. You'll literally be using your gift of beauty for the reason God brought it for you. You know, I watched a video on YouTube. I've seen a lot of modesty videos over the years because I needed to like hype myself up in it, because it was quite a lonely walk at first. And this model, she said that she turned down stuff and it was like not millions, a lot of money. And they were like shocked that she turned it down, and then God rewarded her with something even bigger. And she said, I'm just not going to do it because God doesn't approve. And they were like, oh, God doesn't approve. And she was like, sorry, you can laugh at me, but I'm not going to do it. And God really honors that. So yeah, modeling, you've just got to seek God about it.
So the next question now is it okay to dress sexy for particular occasions like dates, birthdays? You know, there's times when you might dress up for an occasion, but in terms of, you know, maybe, yeah, birthdays, and even when you're going on a date, is it appropriate then?
Well, I haven't been on a date for years, so I wouldn't know. No, I'm joking. No, I think this is a really good question, because for me, I have like, I can talk about in the past a little bit. So I was going on a bit of a modesty journey in the past, not at the level I'm at now, but on, like, say, stage 2. And I'd be so modest at work. And then work drinks would come. I don't drink, but work drinks now. It's like I went from this nun at work to Friday night with the management in this dress, because I was like, well, it's Friday night. And they were all like, oh my days. And I felt like, woo, yeah. But then Monday, I'm like, oh, no, I don't gossip at work and blah, 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 you know. And I just thought to myself, oh, yeah. I felt convicted in my heart, like, you're just being day and night, just like that. And I was like, yeah, but what else am I supposed to wear? It's a night out. What do you want me in a black bag, God? But now I know that there are different clothes that you can wear that's still pretty and it's still elegant, it's still modest, and you could have gone out, but I wouldn't have got the attention I got. No, but there was still something back then that needed that, like, hey, you think I'm geeky at work with my glasses and my office? Wait till you see me on Friday. And I planned those outfits, by the way. I wasn't just like, oh, I'll just see what I throw on. I knew what I was wearing. As soon as they said when the party was, I was already on eBay, like, little black dress. Yeah. But I don't think it's okay to depending on the level of conviction you're at. So me now doing these modesty panels being known as a modesty person, to then post on Instagram my birthday picture and I'm in like, I think everyone would be quite shocked. And I can't just be like, yeah, but it's my birthday. It doesn't matter, because you're still in ministry. And I don't mean ministry as in this. I mean, I'm just, everybody who's working for Christ is in ministry. Like, it's work, full-time work, and we have a uniform. I can't just be slipping about like that. But as for dates, I don't know. I personally would still wear something quite modest but nice and pretty, and save the sexy stuff for the bedroom.
Me. Next. So finding decent clothes can be a struggle. What is the fine line when it comes to clothing?
Yeah, finding modest clothes is hard at first, because you really do have to like hunt them down. But there's more now on the market. It's actually getting quite popular. At first I was a bit like, oh, I'm the only one who's modest. I don't want anyone else to be modest, but I'm okay now. I got dealt with. But it is hard, but it's fun because you do mix and match. Like I was saying, get a mini dress and get some nice skinny jeans and put it underneath, or get like a nice skirt and a nice top. Like, there's so many different things, like midi skirts, midi dresses, maxi dresses, really pretty tops. It's you just have to know about necklines and things, but as you get into it, you'll soon work out like what selection to click on when you're on a clothing site. Like, there is a website called Shine, which is SHIEN, and they have tick boxes and stuff, and I'll always tick modest and things like that, and that does help. Or just googling like pretty modest wear, and you get inspiration, you just recreate it yourself. Like, so it's quite cool.
Okay, so the next question is, should Christians post provocative photos on social media?
Well, I done that at the beginning, like, because like I said, I was saved, but I still had to be sexy. Like, you know, me and my friends would always talk about sexy Christians. So you go on these Christian conferences and everybody would know who was a cool Christian. We don't want to be like frumpy bumpies. You want to be cool and sexy, but really all the cool and sexy Christians had the most issues, because the fact that you need to be like that says a lot. But so sometimes, depending on the level of maturity you are, you will post pictures like that because you need affirmation, and people say, no, I just thought I looked nice, I just wanted that. No, you're probably just, you know, looking every 5 seconds how many likes you got, and then I don't know, it's vanity. Like, I'm not judging people for that, because I was there and still coming out of it. Like, I'm not completely vain free, but it's not what it was. But provocative pictures, it's crazy, because I'll see some people talk on YouTube or do a Christian talk on a podcast, and I'm like, I'm going to look them up on Instagram, and I look them up and I see this, like, I'm like, I don't like this, because I feel like what you've just said and what I now see doesn't match. So I like what you said, but you're not ready yet. Like, maybe you shouldn't say that stuff until you fully, you know what I mean? I just sort of felt like, if you're at that level, then that's where you're at. But what I do find hard is when someone says, oh, I'm modest, and you're like, okay, I want to believe you. Then you see their pictures and you're like, that's not it. So I'd rather them just say, oh, I'm so vain, I can't deal with that yet, I've got other stuff going on. It's like, fine, yeah, that's cool. But it's when you're like, that's not a provocative picture, and you're like this, like, I just do you know?
Okay, so does dressing sexy only attract ungodly men?
Men, what a talk for another time. But does dressing sexy only attract ungodly men? No, it attracts lustful men. That spirit of lust is in godly men, ungodly men. probably even in cats and dogs as well. But it attracts anyone with a spirit of lust, and it just fuels it all. So I used to be on the train and wearing something sexy, and I'd see a guy who's clearly with his wife, and he'll be looking at me, and I'd think, wow, well done to me, I've managed to turn someone's head. But then when I like started getting like healed and delivered, and that would happen, I would deliberately think, oh my gosh, like I'm gonna go and sit somewhere else just to make sure that this man can't look. And it just attracts lustful men. It attracts, the men are visual, people know that, but like godly men might look, but they just say, oh Lord, help me, like, and they'll just be okay. But I find it really hard when some girls and the modesty haters on YouTube say, if I hear one more woman telling me that I need to look after my brothers and dress and be responsible, I'm gonna scream. Because I think to myself, firstly, sit down, because when you have a heart that gets healed and restored, you actually start to care about your brothers, and you know that some of them are struggling with porn, and you don't want to encourage that because they're already in like this deep place of shame, darkness, bondage. And then you're just like, I don't want to have to be responsible for you. It's so nice when a guy can go to Christian camp and just have sisters around him who aren't distracting him with their bodies, just because, not because they want him, by the way, but just because they need a bit of affirmation for themselves. And I just feel like these poor guys, they just want to pray and read their Bible with some sisters, and they're like, oh, I keep looking at her boobs. Oh, I keep looking at her boobs. But some girls will be like, it's not my fault if he's got a porn problem. I should be free and liberated. And, you know, he needs to be responsible for himself. And I just think when you get a heart transformation, you start to care, and you start seeing men as brothers instead of potential boyfriends and just potential need fixers. Because I actually have a brother, and some of you might have brothers, and you wouldn't be like that in front of your own brother, but other men, you're like, oh yeah, I need his attention. But if you start to see them as brothers and have healthy relationships with men, then you don't need to entice them with your looks, because you just care about them and think, you're not my husband, so you're someone else's husband, so I'm going to treat you like that, or just as a brother. If that makes sense.
Yep, it does. Okay, and so, ladies, this is the final question as part of the pre-written questions. So, how do you go about letting Christian women know when their dressing is inappropriate?
Oh, no. You just go like, hey girl. No. Pray about it. Say to God, look, this girl's clothes are just so sexy. Can you speak to her about it? And God might even say no, because she's got other things to go on right now. That's the last thing on the list. Because for me, I had people saying to me, like, you need to dress modest. I thought, I'm still smoking and taking drugs right now. Like, that's the last thing I need to be dealing with. I don't smoke or anything anymore, but I did before. And the clothes was the last thing on my mind, because, you know, you got to get rid of all the men first and all the drama, a lot of drama. And other women, sometimes in the church, I'll go to church and I think, she's in the worship team and I can see all these boobies. I don't like it. But I just think, well, Lord, speak to her. I wouldn't run it that way. I have a kind of simple rule where I just feel like if you're in the pulpit, if you're in leadership, I don't think you should have a modesty issue. If you're in a congregation, I think whatever, you know, you're just the sheep. But if you're at the top, I think you should have earned your modesty badge to even be up there in the first place, and your lust badge and your vanity badge. And, you know, there's a lot of people who've been called, but it doesn't mean that you go and start your ministry the next day. It takes a long time sometimes. So if you're up there with a microphone and you haven't dealt with lust, we know it comes out. People end up like 10 years down the line, like, oh, this guy's come out as gay, this one's now cheating, this person's had an affair. And it's the same with modesty, but it's a heart thing as well. Like, you can tell when someone's spirit isn't very modest, because it's not just clothes, it's the attitude of the heart as well. So it's not always good to tell someone, but equally God might ask you to speak to somebody about it, and then you just pray for the right moment, and then it will usually land quite nicely. But you know, when I first got convicted to be modest, I really wanted to tell everyone, you need to be modest too, because I felt like I was being punished, and I wanted everyone else to be punished as well. I thought, I'm not going to be the only one to cover up. I'm going to make sure everyone covers up, you know. But now now I just think it's each to their own, but I want to become nothing, because that will be great. Apparently it's great.
So
Wow.
yeah, so that was the end of the questions that we prepared. So I don't know if you guys want to unmute your mics, if you have any other questions. We've still got some time. We've got about like just over 20 minutes. So does anyone want to touch on maybe something she
Is it Leah?
Yeah.
Brilliant, thank you. Brilliant. Oh, it was amazing. It was really funny, and really down to earth approach. I just wanted to touch on about, I don't know if you said it, but personal conviction, because I think though it's true, I think that's the excuse for so many things men and women do. Like, oh, I'm not convicted, or it's between me and God. And when I'm, and I feel like that can be used as an excuse basically to sin. But in this regard, in terms of modesty, and I'm just wondering where the fine line is, if after, let's say, someone's saved for a long time, doesn't mean anything because it's not about the amount of time. Or maybe you've been with a sister for years and years and years and years, and you just think like, Lord, what's going on? Like, is there no transformation happening? When is it that you're your sister's keeper and you have to say to her, this is the situation, that, this is where you're dressing is whatever's not appropriate. So more about just talking about the personal conviction and that kind of line people like to give when you tell people about, not about themselves, but in that way that you tell people what they're doing is not correct, etc.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I've heard that one many times. I'm just not convicted on that one, so that's not for me, that's for you. And you enjoy that. But I think there's again like a prayerful time of when you would know, like, okay, this person, I think it's time that they start addressing this, but they might not listen to you. And it's sometimes if they want to harden their heart, or there's just deeper issues of why they need to be seen like that. That style of dress, like there's so much fashion out there. You can be in any style of fashion as well. This is the thing, like people sometimes think like, oh, if I have to be modest, I'm going to be wearing a long skirt and a fluffy jumper or whatever. But you can be like a goth but be modest. You could be like covered in tats and you've got a black top on and black jeans, but you don't have to be the girl that's got the sleeve done with the bra on and the strippers heels, which is like what I used to wear. It's not always about the style, but for some people, they're deliberately wearing clothes they know is sexy and it makes them feel good. And sometimes when you dig a little deeper, there's probably more going on as well. So it's just loving them and being there for them. But like, if they say they don't feel convicted, it sometimes there's nothing you can do about it. And some people just don't want to grow, and that's sad. And you do end up advancing over others in the kingdom because of your willingness to grow and lay things down. But other people just want to hold on to these little perishable things sometimes a bit longer because their identity's wrapped up in it and they're scared to let it go.
What do you think about social media? There's a whole generation growing up in social media, and I don't know, because the kind of fellowship I go to, so I haven't been in like your traditional church for such a long time, so I don't really know what they're talking about, on whether they're talking about topics to do with modesty from the pulpit, or like the youth groups. But what do we do? Do you have any ideas of what we could do for this next generation coming up, where they're constantly being, especially the women, are being told that they need to look a certain way, both need to look a certain way, you know, cosmetic surgery has become the norm. You know, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. It's, you know, I think there's a verse somewhere in Timothy where it talks about the older women teaching the young women. I love that, because if we don't teach them, then who will, you know? And I think just modeling it, if we model it, they'll see it. But if we're modeling, I'm insecure, I need to run around the block because I've eaten a burger, and I've got to do 10 squats because if I don't get a round big bum, then I'm not valuable in society. And oh, I've got a wrinkle, right, Botox is booked. They're going to look and go, oh, well, she's a woman of God and she's doing it, so I'm going to do it, you know. And if it's like, oh, we're trying to be a sexy Christian, relevant sexy Christian. Like, I was so trying to do that, and I see a lot of people where they might be like, oh, I'm just being cool, I'm being, you know, I'm blending in with my surroundings, and then I'm able to minister to those people because I look like them. I think, yeah, you can look like them, but you don't have to, you can do it in a modest way. And it also comes with the heart, like a modest heart, like, because I've had parents come up to me in church and say, I want my girls to dress like you when they're your age. And I've said, wow, that's amazing, because it's such a compliment in a time when you've got people saying, like, you should show it off. Why are you covering it up? But if you can do it in a fun, stylish way, then young girls do look up to that, because they see that you're fulfilled in God, that you don't need to get all of this. But if they see that you're still desperate for it, you're pretending like Jesus is enough for me, Jesus is enough for me in worship, but then you're still like, oh, I hope I look slimmer than Sally next door, and I hope when I go up to talk I still look like fit. It's just like they can see it, you know. Young people can see a lot. Like, I've had girls that are like even 9 years old or 10 years old, and I've looked at them on the street because I thought, wow, she's pretty, because you do, even though they're young. And I've seen girls look back like, and I think, wow, you're only 9, but you could see she was like, yeah, you know, I'm pretty. And I thought, wow, you should, careful, girl, you're gonna go down the wrong road. But they can tell, like, if somebody's giving off, hi, bless you, sister. You know, we just have to model it. And not in a fake way either, not in a kind of, I'll wear my church best on a Sunday, but in the week I'm like, I'm in Miami, man. You know, it just, they won't buy it.
There's a question here that says, is immodesty only demonstrated through being sexy? And in brackets it says publicly. And it says, i.e. could style be immodest?
Yeah, some styles probably could be immodest, like the clothes that people wear in music videos. I mean, I've been in that field, so I know. I mean, I was in my underwear in most videos, but if you just look at hot pants and certain styles, hip hop style, not some of the sexy hip hop style is just so immodest, like there's no doubt about it. But I think, yeah, being sexy publicly, I think being sexy is only really meant for certain plays, like for marriage. Show it off there. But like, even when you're on your own, like if you're single, I don't really think you need to be sexy. Like, some people are like, I'm just going to be so sexy in my single sexy. And I'm like, well, what's the point? I'm not saying don't look pretty, don't look beautiful, but you don't need to be sexy, because you're just going to start attracting things and you can't do nothing about it. So just wait until you're married, and then you can really enjoy it in the way it was created, because the word sexy, my friend was saying to me, comes from sex. So, you know, that's where it's made for.
Yeah, well, I hope that question was answered for you, whoever wrote that one. Another question here says, how about if you have a voluptuous body? Does it make it harder to be modest?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. And even myself, like, I'm a double D cup, and it was just some things that you put on, your boobs go boom, and you think, oh, I like this dress, but I'm just looking more than somebody who's got like an A cup or a B cup. You think, oh, you get away with that. But with God's help and stuff, you start to find new styles and things that does suit you and does look good, but also it comes with the heart. So you could have such a modest heart and wear something and people think, wow, you look beautiful, but you could have the same person wearing that with an immodest heart and you just think, gosh, she's gonna eat me alive in that dress. Like, it's also about the heart. It does come through. But for me, I do have some basic rules that people don't have to apply or not, but I just feel like when I can see too much of your bum, so much boobie, any like waist, like a belly top or a crop top, I just think so like leggings, like if you're voluptuous and you're wearing leggings, even like if you're not voluptuous, these leggings these days, it's just bum, I can see your bum. So I just always suggest like a little bit of a long line hem, curved hem, because the curved hem gives it a nice shape, but something just to cover over it. But it takes work. Like, if you really want to be modest, you have to actually put in the work, and you know, it's not easy, but with God's grace you can do it. But I know what people are saying when they say they're voluptuous. It's different fabrics. You've got to find different fabrics as well. Oh, sorry.
Yep.
Hi, can I ask a question, please?
Yep. Go on.
Thank you very much, Stephanie.
Leah.
Sorry, Leah. Really appreciated your talk and just your honesty about things. I think just following on to the other question about being voluptuous, sometimes I feel like we live in a culture, especially in the Western world, where it's almost like if you're voluptuous, it's almost automatically attached to sexy. Whereas if you're slimmer, then it's like, oh, you can be a bit more like you can look more modest, you can look better, you can look nicer. Whereas being voluptuous, I've felt like I really wrestle finding things that actually I can just look nice without feeling the need to go over the top. But I do feel like it's a constant wrestle, and I just wonder, you talked about that website earlier. Are there other tips or websites that you would recommend that you go to?
Yeah, that is a good point. I know what you mean about being curvy as well, and it's seen as like sexy in society. But I think again that comes with clothing, because you know, I don't mean to bring this person up all the time, but we all know who Kim Kardashian is, and she's curvy, and that's, you know, pretty desirable shape for a lot of people. It's in at the moment, you know, it's fashionable if you like. But if you're wearing something that's, some of these dresses, right, you buy it in the packet and it looks like a baby grow, and then you put it on and you fit into it like a glove. And I just think to myself, well, yeah, you're curvy, so you say, oh, but this dress, you can't blame my curves on it. But don't pick something that's going to stick to you like you're drawing it on yourself as well. I'm not saying that's what you're doing, but I used to do that, and it's just about different styles. And it isn't easy because things aren't always created for it. To be honest, America has so many websites of just beautiful clothes, but it's just so expensive to get it all shipped here. But that website that I shared, which is Shine, they probably have the nicest bits at the moment on Modesty, I think, because they get a lot of Arabs and Muslims shopping, so they've really clocked on quickly, like, oh, we need to be modest. And that's another thing, that they don't expect Christians to be modest. It's just not spoken of. I mean, it's crazy that they just don't see Christians as modest. But if you want to, you can email me. I'll just type my email in the public chat, and you can email me, and I can send you some websites and things. And just because I've really had to search for a few things myself, and it's not easy, so I'd love to do that for you if you want to. But I'll just put it there anyway for anybody who wants it.
Thank you.
Oh, I was on mute there. Thanks, Leah. So I'm just going to ask this question. Can you expound on? Oh no, so that was me. Is dressing out there immodest, and basically out there meant brightly coloured hair, makeup, over stylish or trendy when you are in a place of being seen? So maybe as a worship leader on the pulpit, is dressing out there also defined as immodesty?
Yeah, I know what you mean about that, because sometimes some people, you're like, wow, you got so much colours on you, look like a rocket ship, you're about to go up into space. But that can just be someone's style, because they love the purple hair, silver jacket, and you think that's great. And also, if their heart's right, you can tell. But when their heart's not right, it just becomes a bit of a stench to your eyes, because you just feel like you've turned this whole pulpit into your TV show, and it's all about you. And every outfit you wear, you probably spend more time doing your hair than reading and preparing the sermon. And you can usually tell, because just the presence of God doesn't stay really. But if somebody's really godly and they're, you know, trendy and things like that, that's their style. That's just the way they are. Like, I love pink hair, but it just doesn't look, well, my afro it's not how I'd want it. I like pink hair, but different to mine. But I don't actually have it, not because I'm trying to be modest, but because it's just not my style. But some people, it is their style. But I think you can usually discern, or ask God to discern, like what's actually, when it's all about them trying to get attention and be famous and cool, then versus that's just they've always been like that since they were 5. They were colouring in their hair with felt tips, and do you know what I mean? Things like that. It all depends on the individual. But again, you know, going back to my point about becoming nothing, sometimes if God's put it on your heart to go low and become nothing, you do sometimes want, like, I love modest clothes and modest dresses, but I can't just go and buy loads of nice pretty dresses, because God was saying to me that he wants me to be humble as well and modest. And sometimes wearing lots of beautiful dresses still gets attention, believe it or not. Yeah, they might be modest, but you're still getting attention. And it was just all about, have some modest pieces, because I need you to be covered, I need you to be ready to minister, but don't buy so many that everyone's going to go, wow, you look nice, you look nice, you look nice, because I'm supposed to be disappearing. It's not that I got to wear ugly things. I've got some nice pieces, but I can't just fill my wardrobe up with them now either. So it's kind of about just disappear, die to self. And I don't really think Jesus had like loads of clothes, because I don't really think he's into all of that. I'm not saying that if you've got loads of clothes you should get rid of them, but it's really about just becoming nothing. Like, it's okay to wear the same dress to a party. I used to have to get a new dress for everything, because it's like, I can't wear that, I wore it at Christmas. And it's like, who are you that everyone's going to be looking at you anyway? Why don't you get to the party and get some plates and start handing out some sandwiches? All this, oh, I need to look the part. No, you don't anymore, because it's not about you. And guess what? Nobody even really notices what you're wearing, because you're just serving, and they start to see Christ, and it's about you decreasing and him increasing. And the more pretty dresses I get, the more it kind of becomes about me again, which is hard, because there's so many nice dresses, but it's just my cross I have to carry.
Thank you so much, Leah. Okay, so we are going to wrap up shortly, but I'm just going to read this comment out. I wonder if you can speak into how, as women, we are so quick to compliment each other on how we look or how nice our dress is, and it reinforces the vanity culture.
Yeah, I think we do that as well, because sometimes, well, firstly, when we say to women, oh, you look nice, what do most women normally say? No, I don't. Do they? So the fact that we do it, it's almost probably we're trying to encourage everyone, like, oh no, you got the old insecurity, haven't you? You look nice. And it's like, oh, or we say, oh, it's only. Meanwhile, we really tried, but oh, it's only. You know, so I think that there's something in women as well where we know that we do need to be encouraged, because I think since the fall, really, I don't know if we really realise how amazing we are. And we have all these pretty clothes and we make ourselves look pretty. I think women way more than men, like it comes a bit more into men's culture these days where you can get some men's grooming, mostly gay guys, because like, let's just be honest, they're more interested in it, all of that stuff at the moment. But I think we've made ourselves beautiful, because I don't know if we know that we're enough without it. And it's like, you know, when people, even coming on here, I was like saying to my friend, oh, should I put a bit of makeup on? Should I? And I just thought, because I do wear makeup sometimes, but I just thought I'm enough if I turn up here barefaced. But it's that kind of, it's good to encourage everybody, and but where it goes wrong is where we compete, where we're like, oh, she looks like this, I'm going to make sure I look better next time. And that's just all insecurity, because we've all somehow believed that our value comes from how we look. And I sometimes go on Instagram and there's like a little movement that's out there now where people show a photo of them in their pose, like in the bra and knickers, and then they say, and the same body 1 second later, and they show like all the flaws. And I'm like, oh, I look like you too. You know, it's like, it's so freeing when you see like, oh, you've got cellulite, oh, you've got stretch marks, oh, you actually in that sunlight look like that too. And it's like we've all been like scared to say like who we really are, because we might not be loved or accepted, because women are supposed to be like fit and sexy or whatever, I don't know what the culture pushes. But even people in culture who look good always say like, I don't even look like that photo. That's so messed up, isn't it?
So Esther, do you want to close us in prayer? Can you guys hear me a bit better?
No problem.
Yes, it's better.
Okay, thank you so much, Leah. It's been amazing. Your words of wisdom has been so edifying. I just want to thank God for this opportunity to actually hear your story and just hear your words. And I pray that you have been edified from this and continue to grow from strength to strength, and to be an amazing light to this generation, and to be a light in the darkness. And I pray for everybody that has heard your voice to go into their secret place, and for the Lord to work on all our hearts in areas that we're struggling in, to become more like him. And as you have said, to decrease and to be as nothing, so Christ can be glorified in everything that we do. Amen.